Hello students, I'm Dr. Himanshu Kandpal, Assistant Professor English, Government MS College for Women, Bikaner. Today we are going to study the poem To Night written by one of the younger romantic poets, Percy Bysshe Shelley. P.B. Shelley was born on August 4, 1792 at Field Place near Sussex. He was the eldest son of Timothy Shelley, a wealthy landowner. As a lyric poet, Shelley is among the very greatest. His song is pure inspiration, a thing of lightness, melody, and grace. Shelley had a deep and passionate love of nature. Almost all of his poems abound in nature imagery. As a poet of men, he dwells habitually in a sphere far removed from that of ordinary passions and motives. His verse overflows with his splendid enthusiasm for humanity. To Shelley, love is the perfection of all that is good and noble in life. Shelley's poetry has been called the fabric of visions, the vision of ideal beauty and love, or the vision of a regenerated world free from cruelty, hatred, and oppression. Now we are going to start the poem tonight. This is another remarkable lyric by Shelley. Though written in 1821, it was published after the poet's death. This lovely lyric is a flawless illustration of Shelley's wonderful power of myth making. Personification of day, night, sleep, and death are common enough in the English poets in imitation of classical poetry, but they are apt to be frigid. The remarkable thing about Shelley's personifications is that they are more real to him than their ancient counterparts were to the great majority of the classical poets themselves. In the present poem, the personifications of day, night, sleep, and death are not cold, but pulsate with warmth and life. The language used by Shelley in this poem is vivid, exact, and concrete, and there is a strange mixture of abstraction and pictorial imagery. In fact, this lyric is flawless, composite, and compact in feeling and structure. Now we are going to start the poem. The first stanza of the poem. In the first stanza of the poem, the poet invokes the spirit of night to come out of the dark caves of the east and enliven his mind. Swiftly walk over the western wave, spirit of night, out of the misty eastern cave where all the long and lone daylight thou wovest dreams of joy and fear, which make thee terrible and dear. Swift be thy flight. The poet here makes an appeal to night, which has been personified. Night seems to the poet to be a living being capable of acting in accordance with its own will and capable of listening to the poet. The poet invokes the spirit of night to walk swiftly over the western waves. Shelley has therefore created a myth here. He appeals to night to spread itself over the western sky where the sun sets. He imagines that night spends the hours of daylight in some misty eastern cave. The misty eastern horizon, wherein at day breaks the sun takes its rise to dispel mist, fog, and darkness. Night, he imagines that night spends the hours of daylight in some misty eastern cave all alone, and that it keeps busy during that time where all the long and lone daylight, where in the midst of the long and lonely daylight, where during the dull and lonely daylight thou wovest. Wovest means you wove. In some misty Night spends the hours of daylight in some misty eastern cave all alone, and that it keeps busy during that time, manufacturing or weaving dreams of joy and fear for human beings. These dreams are seen by human beings during their sleep. Sweet dreams, which human beings see, make night dear to them, but the frightening dreams which they see make night terrible to them. Thus, human beings are in love with night, and yet at the same time they are afraid of night. The poet is in love with night without being afraid of it. He wants night to come swiftly and without delay. Swift be thy flight. May your flight be expedited. The second stanza of the poem: wrap thy form in a mental grey, star inwrought, blind with thine hair, the eyes of day. Kiss her until she be wearied out, then wander over city and sea and land, touching all with thine opiate wand, come long sought. In this, the poet calls upon night to wrap itself in a grey colored cloak. Cloak is the cover, which has stars woven in its texture. The dark sky is regarded here as the mantle of the mantle of the night. And the stars that shine in the sky are supposed to be woven in the texture of that mantle. That is, mantle grey is grey overcoat or grey cloak or grey cover. Poet asks the night to cover yourself in a grey cloak. In the next lines, blind with thine ear, blind with thine hair. Here day is also personified. The poet asks night to come and spread its black hair over the blind with thine hair, the eyes of the day. Black hair over the eyes of the day, so that day may no longer be able to see. Then the poet asks night to overwhelm day with kisses. Go on kissing her till she gets disgusted. Let day be kissed so vehemently and repeatedly that day feels tired of these kisses and flees from the world. This is an example of poetic fancy. What the poet here means is that with the coming of night, day withdraws from the world, this world. Then wander over city and sea and land, touching all with thine opiate wand, come long sought. We are to imagine that night carries in its hand a magic staff wand which has the power of sending everyone who is touched with it to sleep. When night comes, all creatures fall asleep. Come long sought, come you long looked for one. The third stanza of the poem: the poet has been longing for the night from morning till evening. When I arose and saw the dawn, I sighed for thee. When the poet got up and saw the day break, when light rode high and the dew was gone, when the sun had risen high in the sky, when the sun was at its prime. In the classical mythology, the sun god Phoebus is represented as driving his chariot through the sky. When light rode high and the dew was gone in the morning, as soon as the sun rises high in the sky, all the dewdrops are dried up forthwith. Gone means dried up by the sun, and noon lay heavy on flower and tree. All the flowers and plants fade away due to scorching heat of the sun, and the very day turned to his rest, and the sun was on the point of setting, being dead, tired after a day's arduous journey, and the very day turned to his rest, lingering like an unloved guest. I sighed for thee. And the sun was on the point of setting in the west, being dead, tired after day's arduous journey? Unloved means undesired, uninvited, lingering like an unloved guest, staying on like an undesired guest. What a wonderful simile the poet has made use of. When day was tired of its stay on earth, it felt like resting, and yet they stayed on for some time more, just as a guest might prolong his stay in a house where he is no longer welcome. In the next stanza, that is the fourth stanza of the poem, the poet rejects the offer of death and sleep, who are conventionally associates of night. Thy brother death came. The brother death, sleep is personified as the brother of death in Homer's Iliad. Virgil also makes death the brother of sleep. Similarly, Shelley speaks in the same strain in the opening lines of his work Queen Mab. How wonderful is death, death and his brother sleep. So, thy brother death came and cried, wouldest thou me? Would you like to be by my side? Would you like to enjoy my company? Thy sweet child sleep. The filmy eyed murmured like a noontide bee, shall I nestle near thy side? Wouldst thou me? And I reply, no, not thee. The poet here reiterates his prayer, death is the brother of sleep. It's stanza 4. When he got up from his sleep and found that it was dawn, he was sorry that the night had expired. Further, when he noticed that sun advancing towards noon or midday, evaporating dewdrops from the flowers and leaves, when he saw that the sun was not setting at proper hour but was lingering in the sky like a guest who keeps staying in the house of his host longer than he wanted, he pined for the approach of the night. Wouldst thou, thy brother death came and cry, wouldst thou me? The poet is interested neither in death nor in sleep. He looks upon death as the brother of night, and he calls sleep as a child of night. Death is the brother of night because night stands for darkness, and death takes human beings into unknown dark regions. Sleep is the child of night because it is during night that human beings are overcome by sleep. Both death and sleep offer to come to him. Death is prepared to take him away from this world. Death is prepared to take him away from this world in case he is sick of life. Sleep, which makes the eyelids close, speaks to the poet very sweetly and softly, like the murmuring of a bee at noontime. Sleep offers to too close to the poet and to send him into a state of temporary forgetfulness. But the poet rejects both these offers because he is attracted only by night. Sleep is called filmy eyed because the eyes of a person who feels sleepy look dim or filmy. Now we come to the last stanza of the poem. Sleep will come when thou art fled, of neither would I ask the. Sleep will come when thou, death will come. Death will come when thou art dead, soon, too soon. Sleep will come when thou art fled, of neither would I ask the boon. I ask of thee, beloved night, swift be thine approaching flight, come soon, soon. In this stanza, and the last stanza of the poem, that is the fifth stanza, the poet does not invoke death or sleep, but his invocation is chiefly addressed to night and her blessings. Death will come when thou art death. Death will come when the night is gone. Soon, too soon. Sleep will come when thou art fled off. Soon, too soon. Death would not take long in coming to the poet. Here it is an unconscious prophecy of Shelley's premature death. It was at the age of 30 that he was drowned in the sea. Sleep will come when thou art fled. The poet does not accept the offer of sleep because he feels that sleep can come to him when night is gone. He would not like to waste his time in sleeping. He can sleep permanently after death. Of neither would I ask the boon. Poet says that I shall invoke neither death nor sleep nor beg for any blessings from either of them. So death will come when I ask of thee, beloved night, swift be thine approaching flight. Death will come when the night is dead, and sleep will come when the night has gone to rest. But the poet will invoke neither death nor sleep, nor ask for any blessings from either of them. His prayer is addressed to the night, who must expedite its approach. When we remember that Shelley died prematurely, the lines death will come, etc., gains a prophetic character and produce a very pathetic and poignant effect. So, in the last lines of the poem, the poet feels that death and sleep offered to come to poet, but he rejected their offers because he did not feel attracted by them. Let sleep and death come to him when there is no more night for him, but at present he is only fascinated only by night and appeals to her to come soon. This is the explanation of the poem Tonight, written by Percy Bysshe Shelley. So, Tonight is a beautiful lyric of Shelley. It depicts Shelley's myth-making power in a remarkable way. As I've already told you, it is a flawless, composite, and compact in feeling and structure. The thought centering in an earnest prayer to the spirit of night is conveyed in 7 stanzas of symmetrical proportion, closely bound by the rhyme A B A B C C D, and repeated each of the 4 times with a natural case. A short refrain marks each unit as a organically complete and forms at the same time an emotional link with the rhythm and mood of the poem. The rhyme scheme of the poem is A B A B C C B. Shelley was a perfect artist and a skillful metrist, though it is said that he often wrote hastily and did not polish them. But most of his minor poems, like To a Skylark, Ode to the poems like To a Skylark, Ode to the West Wind, and Tonight are flawless in point of construction, meter, and melody. They are marked by superb harmony. So, this lyric expresses Shelley's intense love for the night, which has been personified as a living being having a separate life and personality. The poem is one of Shelley's lovely lyrics. It is often said that Shelley was not a perfect craftsman and he wrote his poems in haste. But this does not apply to this great lyric, which is perfect in workmanship. In fact, Tonight is a flawless poem in point of construction, meter, and music. This is all about the poem Tonight, written by one of the famous younger romantic poets, Percy Bysshe Shelley. Thank you.